Shadows in the church. In the peaceful village of Oritameta, Pastor Ezekiel was a respected man. His church was always full because of his powerful sermons and the way he prayed for people. His daughter Esther was the pride of the village. She was known for her kind heart, her sweet voice in the choir, and how she carried herself as a proper church girl. But not many people knew Esther had a secret. She was in love with Kunle, the village mechanic. Kunle was not the kind of man people expected a pastor's daughter to love. He had a rough past and was known for his stubborn ways, but he had a good heart. Esther's father didn't like him and made it clear that he wanted her to marry David, the calm and well-behaved son of Deacon Ojo. For months, Esther tried to hide her feelings for Kunle while also avoiding her father's constant talk about David. One quiet evening, Esther sneaked out of the house to meet Kunle at his workshop. She didn't want anyone to see her, especially her father, so she decided to pass through the church compound. As she got closer, she noticed a faint light coming from the church. Curious, she stepped inside. What she saw froze her in shock. Her father was standing in the middle of the church, surrounded by candles. A man in a black hood stood with him, handing him a small bottle filled with red liquid. Pastor Ezekiel held the bottle tightly and began chanting strange words. "Papa, what are you doing?" Esther shouted, stepping forward. Her father turned sharply, his face filled with anger. "Esther, you shouldn't be here. Go back home now." Terrified and confused, Esther ran out of the church. She didn't stop until she reached home, her heart beating fast. The next morning, Esther told Kunle what she had seen. Kunle, concerned, decided to help her find out what was going on. He asked some of his friends in the village, and they discovered that the man in the hood was a well-known herbalist who performed dangerous rituals for people who wanted power or success. Esther couldn't believe it. Her father, the pastor, was involved with such a person. When she confronted him, Pastor Ezekiel sat her down, tears in his eyes, and told her the truth. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he said. "Many years ago, before the church became this big, I made a deal with that man. He promised to help me grow the church, but in return I had to make a sacrifice every 10 years. Esther gasped. "A sacrifice? What kind of sacrifice?" Pastor Ezekiel looked away. "A life, my daughter, and this time it's supposed to be you." Esther felt her world crashing down. Her father, the man she looked up to, was planning to sacrifice her to keep his church's success. She ran to Kunle, who promised to help her escape. But that same night, David came to her window with a warning. "Esther, you need to stay away from Kunle," David said. "He's not who you think he is. He's using you to get to your father." Esther was confused. "What do you mean?" David explained that Kunle had approached Esther initially to blackmail her father into supporting his failing business. Esther didn't want to believe it, but when she asked Kunle, he admitted it. "At first I thought I could use you," Kunle said, "but I swear, Esther, I love you now. I'll do anything to protect you." Esther didn't know who to trust. Her father wanted to sacrifice her, Kunle had lied to her, and David was trying to win her over. The church's anniversary service was a grand event. Everyone in the village came, singing and dancing. But behind the celebration, Pastor Ezekiel was preparing for the ritual. After the service, he took Esther to a private room in the church. The candles were lit, and the herbalist was waiting. Pastor Ezekiel held the red bottle in his hand, his face filled with regret. "Papa, don't do this," Esther begged. "Please, I'm your daughter." "I have no choice," he said, his voice breaking. "This is the only way to keep the blessings." Just as he was about to start, the door burst open. Conley and David rushed in, shouting, "Stop this madness!" The herbalist stepped back as Kunle and David began arguing over what to do. In the confusion, Esther grabbed the bottle and smashed it on the floor. Suddenly, the room filled with smoke and a loud, terrifying voice echoed. A dark figure appeared, its glowing eyes fixed on Pastor Ezekiel. "You have broken the covenant," the figure said. "Now you must pay the price." Pastor Ezekiel fell to his knees, begging for mercy. Esther, with tears in her eyes, stepped forward. "Take me instead," she said, "but leave my father alone." The figure paused, then said, "Because of your courage, I will spare you, but the deal is broken, and your father will lose what he cherishes most." With that, the figure vanished, leaving the room in silence. From that day, Pastor Ezekiel lost his voice and could no longer preach. He lived the rest of his life quietly, helping people in the village in small ways. David took over the church and vowed to lead it with honesty. Esther forgave Kunle, and they left the village to start a new life. Though things were not perfect, they worked hard and found peace together. The story of what happened spread across Oritameta, leaving people to wonder how far they would go for success and what they would do to fix their mistakes. Thank you so much for watching this amazing tale on Mystic Tales TV at Mystic Tales Africa. Do subscribe to this channel and let us know how you feel about this story. Till our next video, we say bye.